Hey, what's going on, everyone? All right, plug these guys in here. Should probably in a habit of plugging these guys in for the live, but better late than never. Luke Skywalker is in the house. Good to see you, Lucas. Hope all is well, man. Haven't heard from you in ages. Neil, good to see you. Daryl, good to see you as well. Let me know if I pronounced your name right. I think it's pronounced Daryl, right? I'm not 100% sure. Lloyd, good to see you. So we'll wait a little bit, guys. I got like a weird thing going on with my hair today, but it's all good. We'll wait a little bit, guys, for some people to jump in. I got my traditional Sencha green tea organic that I kind of using basically as a replacement for coffee these days. So hope everyone is doing well. Let me know what's new in your guys' corner. I kind of wanted to go check out that Napoleon movie today. Looks pretty cool. Salvador, good to see you. Hope you guys are doing well. Lucas, let me know. Let me know what is up with you, man. I haven't seen you in ages. Hope all is well. So I got my little note sheet here. Okay, that way I don't forget everything like I usually do on these lives. All right. Okay, so guys, remember, if you have Preston, good to see you. If you guys have any questions at all, feel free to shoot them my way. No big deal. We can cover random topics on these lives. But today I wanted to cover like Ozempic. Green tea is a good replacement. It slows me down too. Cool. Well, actually, I use it for a little bit of energy. Mainly, it doesn't really do anything. I just like kind of the taste for the most part. I did get in a little bit of a habit of drinking coffee. Nothing crazy. Just like literally one glass of organic plain black coffee in the morning on workout days. Not even every day of the week. And I did notice it kind of sometimes masks a bit of fatigue you have. You know, even with those low doses, you can kind of mask it with that kind of like fake energy that the coffee gives you. And I just think if you just keep doing that, you kind of wear your body down instead of listening to your body's ability to tell you like, hey, you're tired and you need to rest a little bit instead of drinking more coffee. And that's just like with one cup. So I found one thing I just did was just tweak the volume to my workouts. Because I noticed when I did come off the coffee, I felt a little bit tired and sluggish. This could be like a placebo as well, because I find with a lot of these stimulants, especially after, the initial weeks of having them, I feel it's more of like kind of like your morning routine that wakes you up than necessarily just the amount of coffee you're having or the amount of caffeine you have daily in general. Unless, of course, you just keep like upping the dose, right? Which you want to kind of avoid doing. Carlo, good to see you, because for sure that's going to derail your adrenals and kind of mess up your HPA regulation and then kind of send you in a downward spiral of weird fatigue and stuff of that sort. So, okay. So today we're going to be covering Ozempic. It's not like my place to tell people what to use and what they don't use. So these are just my opinions, obviously, and it really depends on a person's goal. And like I always tell you guys with these lives, or literally anything you follow online, it's tough for a person to tell you what to do unless they met you specifically and they know what you're trying to accomplish. And ideally, if they've done it themselves as well. So it's all up to you. Whatever you want out of your life and stuff of that sort. I'm just going to list. Being a fat loss coach for already 17 years, I'm just going to list the 7 most common overlooked mistakes people make when taking Ozempic. And a lot of times it just goes under the radar, or maybe they do know but don't know the consequences long term, etc., etc. And then it's up to you guys to decide what you want to do personally. So Daryl mentioned I got ADHD, so energy reversal on most things I consume. Yeah, okay. Scott and Hector, good to see you guys. Carlo, good to see you as well. Thanks for jumping in. Okay, so Ozempic. First and foremost, I would say like the biggest overlooked mistake people make when getting on Ozempic or taking Ozempic is they overlook the fact that they simply refuse to change the person that led to the problem. And if you don't change the person that leads to the disease, obviously the disease always returns, like for example, a little bit off topic, but if you have high blood pressure and you go on high blood pressure medication, obviously that might suppress your high blood pressure a bit, but the problem is the belief system that led to the high blood pressure, if that is not changed adequately enough and honestly enough, is going to lead to a myriad of other mental and physical pathologies throughout a person's life. And it's the same exact thing with Ozempic. People use Ozempic to kind of lose weight. It basically acts as an appetite suppressant for the most part, so it gets them to eat less. And they don't want to change the person that led to the problem. And inevitably, once again, and it's very, very important to come to this realization, if you don't change the person that's leading to the health issues, which in this case is excess fat gain, the health issues will return. And on top of that, managing symptoms, which is what fat gain is. It's kind of like a symptom of poor lifestyle and nutritional choices, then also like another symptom of a belief system that doesn't facilitate health conscious choices, is just going to lead to more symptoms over time, which will require more drugs, which have more side effects, and then you'll require to be put on even more drugs. So that's basically your future in a nutshell. And I think a more accurate way to look at fat gain and what could help people realize the Ozempic might not be the right answer for them, and again, it's up to them to decide, is simply look at the etiology tree of excess fat gain. And I presented this, if you wanted, in a lot more detail at the Four Corners Festival in New Mexico this year. So you guys can see the presentation there, but I'm going to touch on it briefly here. And if you look at excess weight gain or excess fat gain or any kind of health issue, whether it be depression, anxiety, gut dysbiosis, gut issues, whatever, and a myriad of other mental and physical pathologies, sleepless nights, erectile dysfunction, low testosterone, stuff of this sort, poor thyroid, etc., etc. And you can see fat gain is at the top. And it's important to see fat gain as a symptom and not kind of like a standalone cause, right? And if you want to come to a complete resolution of your health issues, you want to avoid the symptom management trap. Which is tempting because it's easier to understand, I have a problem, I got to get rid of the problem, instead of what person led to the problem and how could I change that person so the problem doesn't keep on returning. Like for example, if you have like a family member that doesn't manage their finances well and they're constantly asking you for money, obviously if they don't change their belief structure around money and how they spend it or earn it, etc., etc., they're going to just keep coming back and asking you for more and more money. So it's obvious in those situations, but oftentimes when it comes to health, people totally throw that out the window, and they just go into a symptom management never-ending loophole, which might provide some short-term relief for sure, and maybe some short-term results, but long-term, it's a devastating strategy that's just not fair to the individual because it doesn't provide them with lasting change, which is what people want. They want to come to a resolution of their health issue, in this case, excess fat gain, and not have to deal with it anymore, or not have to deal with other health issues. And like I always say, any fat loss program, no fat loss program is sustainable long-term, right? Some can be done for a bit longer than others for sure, but the whole point isn't to stay on a fat loss program for your whole entire life. Is just to get on a fat loss program to lose your excess body fat, whatever number that may be, and then transition into either like a maintenance lifestyle program or a lifestyle and muscle gain program, which I would prefer to do with a lot of people, and I'll mention why a little bit later on, and stuff of that sort. But if you look at the etiology tree, right, going back to it, you have fat gain, excess fat gain at the top. Now, it's pivotal to see fat gain as a symptom. And what is it a symptom of? It's a symptom of poor lifestyle and nutritional choices. Okay? And a lot of times people just end it there too. They're like, okay, that's it. I just got to work out more, sleep a little bit better and eat a little bit better. And that one, once again, is still falling into that symptom management loophole. And this is why people that do fat loss programs, 90% of them relapse over time, because once again, just changing your diet, just working out a little bit more, it's great and it needs to be done, but you need to do way more than that if you want to come to a complete resolution of your issues. And what you need to do is realize that there's a person that's causing certain repetitive behaviors that lead to excess weight gain over time. And once again, leading back, I'm saying this so often because it's so important and so overlooked. You really have to change that person and their belief structure, their interaction with the external environment, and their interaction with their internal environment, and also the complicated balance of getting that internal environment to interact with that external environment in a balanced and healthy way. So when you look at excess fat gain, it's a symptom of poor lifestyle and nutritional choices. And that is a symptom, poor lifestyle and nutritional, who would want to commit self-abuse, right? A person that has like a mind virus or a belief system that doesn't facilitate health conscious choices. And I know everyone's worried about all these external viruses, but honestly, the biggest virus of all that's killed and continues to kill millions of people worldwide every single year is just a belief system that doesn't facilitate mental and physical health conscious choices, right? That leads to more deaths than anything else. I mean, just in the US alone, you have about 800 to 900,000 Americans dying of heart attacks every single year, which are extremely preventable. 9 out of 10 Americans right now are metabolically sick as well. You have about 120,000 Americans dying of type 2 diabetes, which again is so easy to prevent. Nothing to do with genetics. It's just poor decisions over a long enough period of time that lead to the body breaking down and requiring like metformin or other dangerous drugs, which eventually, once again, it's just masking the symptoms. It's just allowing the person to keep being the kind of the dummy that led them into that health problem or health situation or excess weight gain. And that's it. It only allows them to do that for a little bit longer before the issue gets worse or more side effects come around and you need more drugs and then more and more drugs to counter the side effects of those drugs. And all of a sudden I have trained many nurses. They send me pictures of a lot of times people that come into the hospital, they're like 50, 55 years old. They're like 60 pounds overweight and they're on like 13 different medical drugs. So notice the correlation. It's like the more medical drugs, the sicker the person actually gets, because once again, you never change the person that's leading to the disease. And if you don't change that person, the disease always comes back. It never goes away, even to begin with. And majority of the time, it always comes back. And on top of that, other issues are stacked over time. So today it's high blood pressure. You take high blood pressure medication, but because high blood pressure, like what does it even mean? Hypertension, right? The medical term hypertension, too much tension in a person's life, right? Too much stress, not enough using movement as medicine, not enough sleep, not enough eating real food, which is another problem because oftentimes I run into people that are like, I eat healthy, and I highly doubt it. You would never be overweight if you ate healthy. Not in a million years. Like if you're just eating well-sourced whole food, not like the grocery store, but actual real food, like steak, broccoli, fruit, drinking well-filtered water, maybe organic teas like I'm drinking right here, or even black organic coffee or something like that, even if it's not organic, but it's just in its whole food state. There's no way in hell you would be overweight. No way. And the thing is, losing weight, I'm going to touch on this in a lot of detail on this call too, is the easiest part of the journey. It's actually the beginning of your health and wellness journey. So if a person neglects doing that correctly by taking Ozempic, for example, they're really doing themselves a huge disservice that's going to come back and inflict a tremendous amount of misery and pathology on their life. Because inevitably in the beginning stages, it is also a state of mental and physical pathology that lead to excess weight gain. If not dealt with, it just becomes worse and worse over the years, right? So the etiology tree, excess fat gain, it's a symptom of poor lifestyle and nutritional choices, which are a symptom of a mind virus, a belief system that leads a person to commit a lot of self-abuse, eating the wrong food, sleeping late, etc., getting to the wrong occupations, working way too much, sacrificing themselves way too much for others, whatever. The themes can be unlimited, okay? And then what leads to a mind virus or a belief system that leads to all of that stuff? Well, and I touched on it in many other lives, so I'm not going to touch on it in detail here, but you got a tremendous amount of love-hate relationships in the person's life, usually a huge story gap in the person's life. So there's this way they want to be living, but yet they live, who they are in the real world is completely different, you know? Let's say they want to be working remote 2 days a week, but they're in person 5 days a week. Or they want to be working remote completely, or they're working in person completely. Or they got love-hate relationships. They're in a relationship they don't want to be in anymore. They're around coworkers they don't want to be around anymore, or at all, or they have a boss they don't like, etc., etc. Typically, they have like a sense of emptiness or lack of purpose in their life as well, which, when all of that combined together, has to lead to, when there's a huge story gap between what you want out of your life and what your life actually is, that's going to lead to a tremendous amount of maladaptive behavior, because it's very hard to live that way. It's very, very hard on the central nervous system to live that way. And the maladaptive behavior in our conversation in this context takes the form of using medical drugs, of, you know, abusing food, not using food as medicine, but abusing it, and also eating the wrong type of food, eating processed food, eating out. You know, the average American has less than $1,000 to their name, is at about 25% body fat, which is, you know, obese, and they spend around $8,000 to $16,000 a year on non-essential expenses. $8,000 to $16,000 a year on eating out, junk food, subscription services, travel, whatever, other total unnecessary BS that just provides sugar highs at best. And then they turn around and tell you they don't have money for organic food, or they don't have money for a health coach, which is way less than $8,000 to $16,000 a year, which they do most definitely spend. A lot of them are in so much denial that when I tell a lot of people this, they're like, no, I don't. And they definitely do. Just kind of look at your numbers, and for sure it's legitimate. Throughout a year span, the average American does spend $8,000 to $16,000 a year on just eating out, alcohol, subscription services, travel, etc. Some people even spend way more than $16,000 a year for nothing. It's just sugar highs at best that really genuinely don't add any value to the person's life. Like, imagine, what's better, spending $8,000 a year on eating out, or, you know, maybe spending that $8,000 to hire a coach to build like a very beautiful body and teach you how to stop, you know, being the dummy that led you to all your health issues. You know, that's up to you to decide, you know, whatever is important in your life. For me, it's a no-brainer. I would definitely hire the coach, and I have hired many coaches myself over the years. Even I'm an avid reader, but I still understand that nothing is going to replace, you know, 20 or 30 years of experience and wisdom from like a practitioner that's been doing it for way longer than I have in any area, right? So it's up to you to decide. Unfortunately, these days with corporate propaganda, the average American citizen, there are no absolutes, has been unfortunately fooled into believing what's not important is important, and what is important, which is basically your mental and physical health, is not important. And which is why we are where we are today as a nation, right? 9 out of 10 Americans metabolically sick. And if you look up the number one reason for bankruptcy, personal bankruptcy, which accounts for about 75% of all personal bankruptcies, is just health issues. People have health issues, and then obviously the medical expenses here are going to be quite high. I interviewed one person in this group that had cancer, and he maxed out his, I think, $2 to $3 million insurance policy. I forgot the exact number, and he was still stuck with $1 million bill even after that. And he talked about his story of how difficult it was to overcome cancer, which he ended up doing, luckily, but also just the difficulty of having that kind of cost and burden, and also obviously not being able to work for certain portions, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, that iPhone and whatever you're spending your money on, I mean, it's up to you. Everyone has different core priorities. For me, it's like, if I was overweight and not healthy enough to not be on medical drugs, I would be, you know, spending all my available money making sure I lost that weight and became healthy enough to to not have to be on that junk and to look my best. Because if you look great, you feel great, you know? You feel a lot better about yourself, your self-esteem goes up, etc., etc. It's like, what is that meal that you ate out going to really do for you at the end of the day, you know? Or that new iPhone, big deal, you know what I mean? Big deal. You just spent like $2,000 on a new iPhone or whatever. A lot of people aren't even business owners, you know, or aren't even running a business on social media. I understand if you're running a business on social media, that might be a different story. But of course, you can then write that off on your taxes that year anyways and stuff of that sort. But a lot of these people can't even write that off. So it's really a total expense, not an asset at all. So etiology tree, so the big picture of what people that take Ozempic are missing is, instead of changing all of that I described, and there's a lot more, but I just want to get to the point here, instead of changing all of that I described, they just take Ozempic, they take a drug. And once again, all medical drugs do, in my opinion, is just allow the person that's causing the disease to keep being the person that's causing that disease. And managing symptoms will only yield more symptoms over time. 100%. If you don't change the person that's causing the disease will never go away. You might have some short sparks of success, but it'll always come back, and you'll get more diseases as time goes on as well. You must change the person that's causing the disease. If you don't, then it's going to be a disaster. One issue that people have, and I covered this on our last live with friends and fat gain, is unfortunately, because mental and physical pathology has been completely normalized in American culture today, a lot of people around you are also, pretty much all people around you are also mentally and physically very sick. And because of that, it's going to make change for you very difficult, because they'll continue to participate in those behaviors which are breeding pathology. It's not that they're bad people. Most of them are actually pretty damn amazing people, and they're very caring and probably good friends, but unfortunately it's just they've lost their way in keeping up with kind of a more fast-paced Western kind of culture of a work culture, basically. And they've lost their ways, and they started to form maladaptive behavior of poor lifestyle and nutritional choices, becoming very overweight, having various gut issues, and just taking medical drugs to numb themselves out from this, instead of, once again, I'm going to say this a million times during this live because it's so powerful, changing the person that's causing the disease. And as one of my mentors, Brian Carroll, said to me, which was a huge aha moment, he's like, when I kept hurting my back, after I've already been educated on what to do to not hurt my back, he said something super powerful to me. You're doing it to yourself, Eugene. And if you're doing it to yourself, you can stop anytime. The power is all yours. And that was like so powerful. It's just like a light bulb went off in my head. It's like I am causing my own problems, especially at this point, since he already thoroughly educated me, and I've done my own 8 years of studying spine pathologies at this point. I already know, like what's going to cause my back to hurt and what's going to cause future injuries and delineation of the discs of the back, etc., etc. So it was very powerful for me, and a lot of people just can't accept that personal responsibility, but it's what must be done if you want to create a complete resolution, a lasting change. That's what I think everyone wants when they go on a health journey. They don't want the problems to keep coming back. It's like you don't want to lose weight just to regain it 2 to 3 years. No one does. You know what I mean? It's silly to presume this. And once again, by taking like Ozempic and drugs like that, you're totally missing the whole point of going on an honest health journey and the myriad of benefits that will have on your life outside of just losing body fat. Your appreciation for quality food increases because you see what it is versus the shitty food that's leading to that weight gain. You learn about how to balance your central nervous system, which is going to be so important in, if you're more aesthetically inclined, keeping you looking younger for many years. Learning how to sleep properly, or if you're more health inclined, reducing your chances of cancer, because as you learn how to manage your central nervous system and HPA regulation, you also help strengthen your immune system. So your body can fight off all sorts of stuff. You neglect learning how to train and live a balanced life so you don't have these ups and downs with your weight. That's another huge, huge key variable that's missed in people that take Ozempic. Now, people that take Ozempic, some of them may claim they're going to try to do all this stuff. I almost 100% guarantee you it's not going to happen at all. For 99.9% of them, no way. Because here's the truth. Fat loss, when you're on a fat loss journey, it's the beginning of your health journey. Losing your excess weight is just the beginning. As you know, in martial arts, getting your black belt is just the beginning. And then the real education begins on really getting to the root cause of what led to all that weight gain, really learning a tremendous amount of human biology, or, hiring someone to help you with that as well if it's not your thing, but you want the benefits out of it nonetheless. So people can fast track your results that way, or just taking courses yourself too. Once again, a lot of great courses are way less than $8,000 to $16,000 a year, which the average American is spending on just junk. And I guarantee you, if you just funneled that money into hiring coaches to make you look good, to make you feel great, learning about, maybe biodynamic farming like I did for many, many years, there's so many benefits, lasting benefits that will happen to your life. And a lot of people will avoid this because inevitably they're just miserable people, and that's why they're overweight to begin with. There are no absolutes, of course. Maybe 1 out of every 20 or 30 cases I found that it's just the person does lack nutrition education or exercise education, but they are actually living a life they perceive as purposeful, but they just don't know how to operate human biology or operate the human body, for example, and they just need more education there. It's maybe 1 out of every 20. The other 19, really, they are overweight simply because of a myriad of maladaptive behaviors that have formed over a lifetime. And by just taking things like Ozempic, in my opinion, it really just misses the whole point of fixing all of these issues that, if fixed, will actually allow the person to be happy. Because Aristotle's golden mean, not golden mean, but everyone's unconditional want in life is just to be happy. Of course, how you get there, everyone is going to have a different story, but that's unconditionally what everyone wants. And by just masking, symptoms of fat gain with like Ozempic, you totally miss that picture, and you do yourself a great disservice, a tremendous disservice, actually. Once again, there might be some initial spark of motivation, but really you're just numbing symptoms out with questionable drugs. A lot of reports coming in with various side effects from Ozempic, especially digestive issues. There are a lot of issues, I'm sure, with muscle wasting because it's an appetite suppressant, and you actually have to eat a tremendous amount of food while losing weight to keep your metabolism revved up, especially protein. How are you going to do that if your appetite is suppressed? So you're going to waste a lot of muscle, most likely, going on a fat loss journey and thinking it's you lost body fat the right way. No way. This is shortcuts. Shortcuts never win. Remember, if it's too good to be true, it is. I feel people are, in my opinion, really being fooled greatly with taking something like this. And it goes back to, once again, like a culture of systemic and normalized pathology. Once again, it's normal to be broke in the U.S. Average American is $1,000 to their name because they're spending their money a lot of times so foolishly on random stuff. It's normal to be overweight. 80% of Americans are either overweight or obese. It's normal to be mentally ill. 33 or 40% of Americans are on some kind of psychiatric drug. It's normal to be metabolically sick. 80% of Americans are on some kind of prescription drug. And unfortunately, all these medical drug dealers are just feeding the problem. Instead of providing real solutions, they're just masking symptoms with dangerous medical drugs. And remember, if you chase symptoms, it will only yield more symptoms over time. That's it. That's the only future the person has for them. And it's great money for the medical system, but unfortunately, it's going to be a complete disaster for a person that actually follows this kind of symptom management protocols. So, number 2, biggest overlooked thing, like I mentioned like a million times already, is once again the people just really have a hard time seeing fat gain as a symptom. They just see it as an isolated problem, and it's not reflective of their character in any way. Some of them even foolishly believe it's their genetics. And I asked them in a nice way, okay, if it's your genetics, how come before 1950 you rarely see any overweight people? Or during the hunter-gatherer days, you definitely don't see literally any overweight people. Like the human DNA strand has not changed basically at all since 1950. It really hasn't even significantly changed since 200,000 years ago when the Homo sapien first started migrating on this planet, okay, and living on this planet. And now all of a sudden it's completely different. Now their environment is completely different. I agree with that. Genes are the same. Basically, for sure. The person who's doing it to themselves, it has nothing to do with their genetics, which is powerful because if they accept that and they really be an adult, they realize that if I'm doing it to myself, one, I can stop doing it anytime, two. And there's your key to success. Of course, you're going to need education, but once again, on how to do that. But once again, you have the internet, which is a great resource, kind of like a double-edged sword. But you can take that $8,000 to $16,000 a year you're spending on junk, on feeding your pathology, and just channel it into health courses. Get used books on Amazon. They're like $2 to $3. A lot of these books I have here in the back are amazing books, and I got them used on Amazon for like a few bucks. And I mean, they're amazing authors, full of knowledge and wisdom. And you're basically sitting with them at a coffee shop as you're reading this book, and they're teaching you what they spent 20, 30 years learning, the mysteries of the universe, the mysteries of the human psyche, the human body, biology, all this interesting stuff. And you're spending it on eating out and junk food and alcohol and all that BS. Come on. It's a no-brainer, you know, spend it on books. If you're overweight, on medical drugs, your number one priority should be on not being overweight, getting healthy enough to not have to be on medical drugs. Stop spending your money on traveling overseas for 2 weeks, $3,000 to $4,000 to Europe, just so you can return back to the environment that led to all those health issues, and basically forget the sugar high of your trip like a week into the work environment because it's such a fast-paced environment with endless deadlines and stuff of this sort. So foolish, so foolish. I'm not saying don't travel, but I'm saying when you know, your health is poor, you're overweight, you're not feeling great, your self-esteem is low, and you're on a bunch of medical drugs just to be able to get up in the morning. You have to take a bottle of Xanax and 5 energy drinks just to be able to have enough energy to wash your dishes. That's a huge red flag that you need to immediately make it a priority to not be overweight and not have all these health issues. And most of you have the money to do that. It's just you're foolishly spending it on other things, unfortunately. And that is one of the issues that's keeping you there in a normalized state of pathology. And unfortunately, over time, instead of changing, people get into a tricky game of reframing. They start trying to change the negative into the positive. This is a very slippery slope that usually most always never ends well for the person. So they're like, oh, you know, like I hate my job, but you know, I get money or something like that, or I get the health insurance plan. Although my argument with health insurance plans are so silly because first of all you're getting with a health insurance plan is just surgeries and medical drugs, which are for sure great in emergency situations, but the bulk majority of health issues Americans are suffering these days are from lifestyle disorders. And if you were probably not working that miserable job, you wouldn't have those myriad of health issues. If you're just investing that time or the difference in the money in actually being healthy, and they start reframing into the negative, into the positive, like, oh, you know, this into that, or, you know, it's not that great, but at least I have a paycheck and health insurance, or at least I have this prestigious title, or, you know what I mean? They start playing this reframing game, and it's very dangerous, and it's actually, I've noticed, at least in my opinion, one thing that really keeps people stuck for a very long time, if not their whole life. It's a form of cognitive dissonance, because if that didn't exist, they would fall into major depression most likely, or severe anxiety, and which still happens. It still breaks through. All of this reframing is just kind of like putting a patch on a dam that's clearly cracking and about to break open. Sure, the patches will help a little bit, you know, relieve the pain a little bit here and there, but that dam's going to break one day, unfortunately. So, okay. Number 3, another big issue that people overlook while taking Ozempic is muscle loss. Okay, so first of all, the number one anti-aging strategy, at least for your appearance and a part of your metabolic health, is to ideally try to build a decent amount of muscle on your frame before you hit like 40, 50. That way you can kind of maintain, it's fairly easy to maintain that kind of muscle. I've even had various clients gain muscle into their 50s, into your 60s. And then of course there's a bit of a decline, but you start at a high amount of muscle. So as you age, you're still pretty much in your 70s and with a decent amount of muscle. You look lean, toned, fit, sexy, you know? But the problem with Ozempic is you have a lot of muscle wasting due to it being an appetite suppressant. And then once again, missing the whole point of all that other stuff we just mentioned. Because if a person isn't able to lose weight, that means they really don't know any health principles at all, because losing weight is just so easy. And once again, it's the starting point of an honest health journey. Losing weight and getting down to your desired body weight is the starting point. Then to begin an honest health journey of really transforming the person and the lifestyle to make it possible long term, right? And because the person taking Ozempic refused to change the person that led to the problems by taking these kind of questionable drugs, their foundation is broken, completely broken. And they're trying to build a house, even if it's a nice house constructed of amazing equipment, they're trying to build a house on top of this broken foundation. And it's a super foolish strategy that will 100% fail in a medium or long term. Not going to work. It's just not going to work. And you will see, not only will these people relapse, but they'll have, a lot of them, maybe not all of them, but a lot of them will have probably serious health consequences for taking stuff like this. Because remember, anytime you change anything in your body, it has a ripple effect on everything in your body. All of your systems are interconnected. It's like your brain can't survive without its liver, or its kidneys, or its heart. None of your organ tissue, your visceral tissue, can survive without its brain. Or the lungs or the heart used to pump all the blood, oxygenated blood, throughout your body. Everything is interconnected. So when you change one variable, you create a myriad of changes throughout your body. And a lot of times, unfortunately, people that use these kind of drugs, they really foolishly presume that all medical drugs are safe. And this is so foolish, because every single medical drug, first of all, that ended up killing someone eventually, or a bunch of people, was at first proven to be safe enough to be put in the marketplace to begin with. Just remember that. And how many of these medical drug commercials, liability commercials, do you see on TV constantly? Like, oh, if you took this drug, this antidepressant, or this during this period, call us and you might have a legal case or whatever. Those are always coming up, and you'll notice FDA is always pulling different drugs from the market that were at first approved by them to begin with. So there's a lot that goes on. Remember, it's a huge business. A lot of these safety studies are done at these companies, by these companies, by their scientists, and then the test results are shipped then to the FDA, and the FDA looks at those test results for approval. Okay. It's not like it's done by researchers in the FDA, which used to be the case a long time ago. But then industry always gets the best of government in some ways. So now the research is done by industry, by their paid experts that are their payroll. And then those results are obviously sent in to the FDA for approval and stuff of that sort. So you get a tremendous amount of muscle wasting. And when you waste muscle, you're going to look old and depleted. That's one of the fastest ways to at least have your body look extremely aged, is losing muscle. And when you take an appetite suppressant like Ozempic, that's exactly what's going to happen. And in fact, probably my guess is a lot of people that take Ozempic end up, because they don't eat whole food, because it's not as appetizing when you're on an appetite suppressant, they end up getting in a lot of liquid calories from like alcohol or juices or stuff of this sort, which just accelerates muscle loss even more. And once again, reinforces poor eating habits and a lack of understanding of basic nutrition principles. I'm talking about the basic of the basics. So basic. And that's completely neglected and overlooked altogether, which does the person on this a complete disservice. And you'll notice I haven't actually seen it. I could be wrong. There are no absolutes, but I've never seen anyone that takes Ozempic that actually has a good looking body at the end. They just look very frail and depleted and just not healthy at all. So there's that aspect also, okay? Anti-aging. So muscle to gain. So once again, you got to eat a lot on a fat loss journey. In fact, most of my clients, I interviewed them here, a lot of them, they say they ate way too much. And that's the whole goal. You need to fuel that body in a very kind of strategic way to be able to lose a tremendous amount of muscle, to be able to lose a tremendous amount of fat without losing a lot of muscle. On Ozempic, you're probably losing, let's say you lost 10 pounds, at least like 5 to 6 of those pounds is going to be muscle. That's a terrible ratio. When in fact, like on my program here, as I interviewed many people and showed their end body scans, they've actually gained a little bit of muscle during their fat loss phase. In most cases, sometimes they maintain, which is amazing in and of itself. But in order to do that, you definitely need to be eating a decent amount of food, which you're not going to be doing on an appetite suppressant. So once again, really doing yourself a disservice. And also, once again, the body, it just doesn't look aesthetically appealing at the end, which is another huge problem. They just look, once again, depleted because they never learned any of these basic principles. They're trying to shortcut the process. And if it sounds too good to be true, it's because it is. It is too good to be true. They shortcut this process, and they're not on a proper undulating periodization program. Once again, if they say they're going to, they might, but then once again, if you just do all of this basic stuff that I've been talking about, you will lose weight anyways, and in better proportions. You'll lose mostly, if not all, just body fat while retaining muscle. And most likely, if you're on a proper undulating periodization program and your coach does a lot of central nervous system management coaching with you, which I do with my clients, that's a big part of the program, they're not going to burn themselves out on the program and deplete muscle. In fact, they'll probably just gain a little bit of muscle, especially if they're really overweight. Then they have a much, much higher chance of gaining a decent amount of muscle, and especially if they're new to weightlifting too. But that's completely neglected, and that's unfortunate with people that take Ozempic. They're once again missing the big picture of what it means to go on an honest health journey, which will not only get you to look better at the end, but get you closer to actually being happy with your life and yourself, which Ozempic will never do. Which is a tragedy, and it's totally American, just to drown symptoms out with medical drugs. Total American system, which is why it's such a disaster. And I don't know how a lot of these medical drug dealers are able to give people these kind of drugs and not feel bad about themselves, because I would feel freaking terrible if I was resorting to practicing that way instead of really honestly helping the person and teaching them honest health principles, instead of giving them unnecessary stomach surgeries to help them lose weight, or very questionable and most likely dangerous drugs like Ozempic. So let me hear. Yeah, so number 4, once again, I touched on a little bit earlier. Fat loss is just the beginning of your journey. Okay. And because the people that take Ozempic don't honestly give an honest attempt at changing the person or the foundation that led to all their issues as discussed here, they're once again trying to build a house on top of a poor foundation. And this is a strategy which will not work. It will fail 100%. 100%. So number 5 here, just a quick reminder that fat loss, once again, I'm going to say it again, is the beginning, right? Losing body fat and getting to your ideal body fat percentage is just the beginning of your journey. It's not the end result. And people that, once again, take Ozempic, they totally lose track of this and what it means to really go on an honest health journey. They're trying to cheat their way into doing everything possible, but the one thing that would actually help them, and that's changing the person that's causing all of their issues. In this case, their fat gain, which is themselves, through their choices, decisions, etc., etc. And I know some people are like, I tried everything. I promise you haven't tried everything. And I promise if you tried a bunch of stuff, you did it incorrectly. Because once again, just weight loss is such an easy portion of the journey. And because you can't, it's kind of like addition in the whole entire grand scheme of mathematics. And if you can't even do addition, like how are you trying to do calculus? You know what I mean? You got to learn plus and minus first. Okay. So, yeah, I touched on the side effects. Obviously, it's important to remember that every drug that ended up killing like a bunch of people was at first approved by the FDA, at least to be safe enough to be in the marketplace, but then eventually was taken out. This happens a tremendous amount, and a lot of side effects are coming in from Ozempic too. A lot of people are reporting a lot of serious digestive issues when they come off Ozempic, because it's something you unfortunately have to use for the rest of your life, which is super foolish. And David Larson is a great client, great friend here too. He's on this live right now. So he's sick. On top of that, he's 60 years old, which breaks the big myth of like, weight loss is difficult as you age. Totally not true. Just another myth. Weight loss is easy at any age. Now, building muscle does get tougher as you age for sure, but weight loss is easy at any age, and he proved it. So I forgot exactly when we started, like 4 or 5 months ago, or maybe 6 months ago at this point. But he actually ended up on a fishing trip breaking his foot like a week before we started. And this set us back like three months. But even during that 3 months, he still ended up losing, I forgot exactly, maybe like 30 pounds or something of that sort, So there you go. You don't even need to work out to lose weight. I mean, I don't know how to make it so obvious. And it's especially in this group, I'm trying to give away so much great information and give you guys all the power. I'm not saying it's your genetics. I'm not saying that, because it's not. It's just you and your behavior. And then once you wake up to that reality, then you'll start taking the honest and long journey of creating honest change in yourself. So, but side effects. Just really disappointed with the medical community again. I mean, I love the emergency staff. They're amazing for sure. But it's just so heartbreaking to see medical drug dealers giving these kind of drugs to people instead of offering them honest solutions. So heartbreaking. And because it's totally robbing the person of power in themselves, not giving them the education to be their own mechanic, especially. That's so important. And I just don't know how they could go home and feel good about themselves practicing this way. It's just such a disservice. And as you can see, American culture is more medically drugged up than ever, and the sickest it's ever been. It's time to realize that medical drugs don't work, in my opinion, and from my observation. All they do is act as an enabler to allow the person to keep being kind of the dummy and participating in the behaviors that led to their various pathologies. That's it. For a little bit longer, but then the side effects kick in from those drugs, then you need more drugs to counter those drugs, then there are complications from drug interactions, then you need more drugs to counter those drugs. It's a disaster. So I'm hoping that at least by my lifetime, people start looking in the mirror more and just realize that they're doing it to themselves. So another thing with Ozempic, I'm thinking of actually leaving this one out. I'll just say, just from personal experience, like just from a character perspective, if I see a person taking Ozempic, I instantly can tell from my observation they're in at least a state of denial, and also in a mindset of needing instant gratification at the expense of a long-term bigger picture. So for me, from like a dating perspective, I'm lucky enough to have an amazing partner of 8 years already. I wouldn't date that type of person. simply because, once again, they're unhealthy. If they're using stuff like this, they're definitely unhealthy. That's one. Two, they're in some type of state of denial. It could be severe or minor, and this will impact your relationship when a person doesn't take personal responsibility for the issues that arise in their life. More likely to blame externally, etc., etc. And they're also in a state of cognitive dissonance in one way. They just, once again, they don't want to deal with all of this stuff we mentioned, which creates a whole healthy person, which is pleasant to be around. When you have a person that's done all of this background stuff, not only do they probably look great and they have vitality and a lot of energy, but they're also probably just happy and well-balanced people and just pleasant to be around. And at least out of my group of circle of friends, I don't see anyone that's done all this background stuff, even seeing it remotely necessary to be on Ozempic, which it's not if you've done all this stuff. So personally, like, I would just avoid dating that person. I think it's just a huge red flag, and it's not going to be good for your relationship, in my opinion, long term. So, okay, great to see you guys. David, amazing to see you again. We'll catch up on Tuesday. Michael, Christian, I saw a bunch of other people came in. Anthony, Koo, good to see you. Jose, good to see you guys. John, Raul, Ivan, Jesse, Jesse again. Elias, what is up? All right, you guys. I saw a few other people here jumped in. So have a great weekend. I'm going to go try to see Napoleon. I want to see if maybe I could even live stream it. Probably pretty cool. I used to be super into history back in the day. My favorite class in high school was like AP European history. So I want to kind of get into that a little bit here and there as a hobby again. So hope you guys are doing well. Wishing you the best, of course. And remember, just get out of your own way and life will be a lot better that way, okay? All right, guys. Take care.